I admit it, I'm struggling right now in my new retired life, but I know it will get better over time. I found these 3 things that I must change to smooth out this process. And of course, with that, I can get on to living my best retired life. If you're thinking about retiring, or you're struggling with your new retirement like me right now, I offer you these 3 things that will help kind of smooth out that process to allow you to take full advantage of this new life. This may not be true for some, but for most, retirement is not what you thought it was going to be before you retired. Let me explain. As I was considering the prospect of retiring, I formulated plans, all the things I was going to do, all the things I was going to get done. After I walked out of the office building for the last time, well, as you might have learned from my first video on retirement, my retirement journey started a little bit earlier than I had anticipated. My decision to retire came quickly because I was offered the deferred resignation and I only had 72 hours to make a decision. So I wouldn't have accepted that. Now that put my retirement 3 months before I was planning to retire. I know that doesn't seem like much, but in the planning process, that 3 months can make a big difference. In addition to that, my wife was planning on retiring at the end of the school year. So now, with the deferred resignation, that put my retirement 3 months before hers. So at the beginning, I was going to help her transition into retirement, but now I'm retiring earlier and doing it on my own and waiting for her. I know that all seems like pretty simple, and for those of you who have not retired yet, you'll probably think, okay, what's the big deal? Only 3 months difference, so you're retiring before your wife now. But you'd be surprised how big of a difference it can make. So now I'm retired while my wife continues to work, and I've quickly learned some hard truths about this new life that I must adapt to. Changes that myself or anyone else newly retired must make in order to make this smooth transition. So let's get right into it. First off, number 1, hard change you must make is you must learn time management. Yes, I know what you're thinking. How can time management be a problem when you're newly retired? You suddenly have all this time. Well, that's just it. I have found that when I was working, I was able to manage the time I had left because I knew that's what I had. I was not at work. I had to manage that time. I had to get things done until I had to go back to work. I had the weekends and the evenings. Well, now, suddenly, I have all day. And believe it or not, time management, there's a lot more to that when you have a completely open schedule. So that's been a big hassle for me because I'm not as good at time management as I previously thought. Number 1, I never really had to do this much intensive time management. I was working all the time. So that's something that is an adjustment. And number 2, well, I should say part 2 of number 1 is I never really had to do this for myself. I never had to manage my own time. My schedule for the most part was set for me. 8 hours of the day at least, my time was already accounted for. Well, now I have to come up with my own schedule to keep myself busy. I know that seems strange, but that's another hard truth. And that goes on to other things, which is prioritizing tasks. I still have a lot of tasks to do. Being newly retired, my list of things to do is, I don't know, it's like an unabridged Bible. I have so many things that I could be doing that I'm planning on right now that one of the difficulties that I've run into is just prioritizing what it is I need to get done. For instance, my lawn needs to be mowed. I haven't done that yet, but you know what? I'm thinking maybe I'll just hire my grandson to mow my lawn. So that's a task that, must be done, but I can find other ways to do that. My wife and I also have a part-time business. So I've been spending a lot more time with that lately. But again, those are things that I have to manage and prioritize on my own, which I had not had to do before. My priorities were basically based on the little bit of time I had. So it was much easier to manage that time. Seems strange, but oddly, you'll find that when you retire, if you already have, maybe you understand this, it is a whole different story to manage your time when you have an open schedule. And of course, that leads me to the next thing, which is something that I have done, is because I have this open schedule and I have a list of things I want to do a mile long, I try to do too much. I am trying to squeeze everything that is accumulated over the last months, years, whatever, into this schedule that I have. So therefore, I'm not allowing myself enough time to properly integrate into this new lifestyle. And I quickly realized that because, believe it or not, in the course of a week, I was starting to get burnt out. I was thinking to myself, I need a break. I need a break from my retirement life. How can that be? And that's simply because I was trying to do too much at one time. So when it comes to time management, the things I would say is it is a different task when you have all the time in the world. You do have to manage your time because you have a lot more of it to manage. Number two, you have to prioritize. And number three, don't try to do too much. And of course, if you have stories about this in your retirement life, please comment below and tell me about this. I would like to hear. I'm hoping I'm not the only one. Number two is closely related to number one, but it is a little bit different. I feel so anyway. So number two is finding your new life rhythm. Now for me, I'm not quite there yet, but I'm realizing quickly that this is something that must be done. So what I mean by this is, when it comes to time management, yeah, okay, you're going to develop a means of getting things done. But when it comes to your new life rhythm, in my own case, I found myself for the first couple of days sitting at home, taking some time off, trying to adjust. But then I quickly realized I was a little lost because I wasn't prioritizing and managing my time. I was thinking, oh man, this is like an extended weekend for me. And then I quickly realized I can't do this for forever. And there's so many other things that I have wanted to do, which I hadn't done because, well, I was working all the time. So those are things like hobbies, interests. One of the things is I started getting bored. I started going on bike rides. I started walking around town. And my town is a mile away, so it took me a mile to get there. I'd walk through town for a mile, walk back. I'd spend half the day walking somewhere. I kind of found that nice. The bike rides were nice. I haven't ridden a bike in a long time. So that started helping me develop a little bit of a rhythm. Before, when I was working, I used to exercise every day. And so now I'm getting into the rhythm of, okay, I wake up in the morning time. I go out and I go for a walk or I go exercising. Of course, my wife is not retired yet, so I'm doing this on my own. But it helps to have or develop some kind of rhythm. Then I went to our studio after that, got caught up on all kinds of work, and I was playing catch up. And so now that the catch up part is getting over with, I'm starting to realize, okay, I have to develop some type of life rhythm, something I like to do every day. I'm not saying that you have to be dull and do the same thing every day, but what I'm saying is there are certain things that we do at certain times, and there's things we like to do. Schedule time for that. So this life rhythm is different when you're retired than it was when you were working. When you're working, well, basically your rhythm was you worked all week, and then you worked like a dog all weekend preparing for what you had to do, and then you went back to work. So now I'm finding, okay, I can do other things here. Today I'm going to go to a grand opening for a local business. Why? Well, because they're offering it, it's in the middle of the day, and I'm going to go. So that's one thing I'm realizing I can do to develop my own style, my own rhythm. I like to write. In the past, because I was working full time, I got into the habit of I write when I could. When the mood struck me, whenever I had the time, or if I could make time, I would write. Well, now I'm realizing I can write whenever I want to. But therein lies the problem. So I have to make sure that I schedule that time for writing. I have to take me time out. And it's okay to want to be alone. and do things like that. And so I'm quickly realizing that, and I hope that this helps other people realize that too. And there's nothing wrong with not having a rhythm right off the bat. It takes some time to develop. The other thing is challenge yourself. Keep learning. I don't want to just sit and watch TV and be a vegetable in my retirement. I want to learn new things. I want to stay active, keep my mind active. That writing helps that, but you also have to get out and have conversations with people. I can easily have conversations with strangers. It's more difficult for me to have conversations in intimate settings than it is in, being out in public and having conversations with strangers. I don't know why that is, but that's something I'm trying to work on, to develop that time. And of course, with my exercising, I like to exercise every day. I either go for a walk or a bike ride now, and I have to do something every day. I have my little Apple Watch, and I must keep on my schedule. I must get at least my 30 minutes of exercise every day. And that's important to me. And I know you're looking at my videos and you're probably thinking, well, aren't you skinny enough? Keep in mind, my skinniness comes from a different, it comes from a medical situation. When I developed or was diagnosed with diabetes, one of my symptoms were that instead of being overweight, I was never really overweight, but I suddenly had a massive weight loss, and it's very difficult to get that muscle mass back. So I exercise basically to keep my muscle mass. Anyway, that particular health issue is a topic for another day or another video. See, gave me an idea. I can work on something now. The bottom line here is it's going to take time, I believe, to develop a new life rhythm. It took me 45 years to develop the rhythm I have now, going to work every day. So I should suspect it's going to take a little bit of time to go into this new lifestyle. It's just going to take some time. So that's something I would like to say that anybody can do, or I would advise others to do, only because I'm living through it now. And so take the time to make time for yourself and develop that rhythm where even if you're doing the same thing every day, even if you're trying to do different things every day, develop a rhythm in your life that suits your lifestyle. Okay, number three is limitations. You got to know your limitations. I think that was in a movie somewhere. But you want to know or learn your new limitations, and then also be able to set those limitations for others. So on the first one, knowing your limitations, first off, I think I mentioned this earlier, I haven't mowed my lawn since I retired, and it's getting warm out now. But, if I have to mow the lawn myself, no big deal. I've got the time. Maybe I'll hire my grandson to mow the lawn. Right after I retired, I spent a week in Italy. So that was, we were kind of on the road at that point in time. So knowing your limitations is important. Pretty much all my life, I have pushed myself both physically and mentally. It was part of being in the military. I basically have lived my whole adult life in and around the military. Even when I retired from the military, I still worked as a Department of the Army civilian for the military as an instructor. So that's something that I had to get used to, and that goes back to your life rhythm. So, but knowing your limitations, I am at the point in my life now where, as much as I hate to admit it, I am discovering new limitations all the time. I just don't work as well as I used to. Let me see. In my military career, in 22 years, I was in 2 helicopter crashes, a car crash. Had an explosion, had been stabbed. So, that was just what had happened to my body. And I just lived the lifestyle where you just pushed yourself, you pushed through all that and just kept on going. So that's something that I think is very important. You get to a point where you can only push yourself so far. And I am one of those types of people where I'm likely to, go out there and try to mow the lawn and get it done in one fell swoop. And then my wife will find me keeled over on the lawnmower outside. So I have to be careful for that. The other thing I found is that once word gets out that you're retired, everybody else knows you're retired, and they think that, hey, you got all the time in the world. You're at their disposal. They can ask you for favors. And so I am learning, haven't quite got there yet, but I'm learning there are times when you need to be able to say no. You know, if you have other things planned or it doesn't fit your schedule, then you have to be able to say no. Now, don't get me wrong. You have a lot more time to say yes in retirement than you do before you're retired. But again, this goes right on to your own limitations. You know, this is your limitations, starting to be your limitations that you set for others. So I think it's important to be able to say no to some things, you know. So rather, you can't say yes to everything because people are going to be out there, and it's not like they're trying to take advantage, but people who are not retired are looking to you as someone who is now retired as a benefit to them. And they don't realize that, hey, you're retired for a reason. You know, you have some limitations here. So maybe a little gentle reminder is needed in those cases. And also, now that my thinking is changing about the first two things, time management and life rhythm, it helps me with this third thing, limitations. So I'm starting to realize, again, going right back to what I had just previously discussed, is that I'm quickly realizing that, you know, I do have the ability to decide for myself how much I'm going to do for myself and for others. I think that's very important. So even with this YouTube channel I have, I guess, revived, I want to say created, but I actually started on YouTube in 2010, but YouTube wasn't what it is today. So even when it comes to YouTube, I realize I have all sorts of ideas. I mean, I've got 3 years worth of ideas saved up right now, but I simply can't do all of it at one time. So I have to pace myself and allow myself to grow naturally. You know, I can't force this. I want to make one video at a time on whatever subject I'm going to make it on. And I want to be able to sit back and look at that, because to me, this is half the fun. You know, making the videos for me is the hard part. What I really enjoy is I like editing the videos. I like going in and looking at all the statistics and analytics afterwards. Now, I know it seems strange, but I kind of like that. It's kind of fun for me. It's almost like playing a video game. As I follow along and, you know, see what works, what doesn't work, you know, and of course there's always the metrics, you know. Yes, I'm trying to get more followers. Yes, of course, I guess I'm going to try to get monetized, but I'm retired. It's not like I'm not struggling. I don't need the money. Of course, everybody needs money, but it's not that I'm relying on this to live, but it's something that I enjoy doing. And of course, those are milestones that you can, you know, reach that helps you realize, okay, you know what, I'm doing this correctly, I'm doing this right. But again, this goes back to my limitations. My goal is to put out a new video at least once a week. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm not going to get down on myself because I miss a weekly video by 1 or 2 days, because I'm trying to do it correctly. So therefore, you know, knowing your limitations. The main thing here is just to make sure that I learn and grow with this new hobby and a multitude of hobbies that I have. Of course, I'm still going to be posting some videos about writing, about poetry. And yes, I know that hurts the overall grand scheme of things when it comes to YouTube, but that's something that I enjoy doing. I can't make all my videos about retirement, you know, but right now it's a big deal for me. But I think I'm going to squeeze some videos in there about my old typewriters that I collect. Maybe I'll throw some writing stuff in there because I've done a lot of new stuff there. It's been, you know, 14, 15 years since I've published anything almost. So there's that as well. So in conclusion, I'm sure there's things that I've missed in this video. I try to break it down to 3 things. To me, if I say 10 things or 12 things, it just seems like it's too difficult to remember. You know, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, so I like to make a video and just cover 3 important things. Yes, there are probably more things that you must consider, but I'm keeping it with 3 things. I like to keep it simple. If you can think of any other issues that you face, or that you found, in your early retirement or just considering retirement, make sure you post them down in the comments. And again, as always, if you've made it this far and you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And I would appreciate that because, I'd like to get more subscribers. That's my goal. That tells me that I'm doing the right thing and I'm making these videos correctly, using what I have. So with that, I bid you farewell for right now and see you again soon.